Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And on this episode, we want to think about how we can truly align to our motivations, because I'm sure if you were truly aligned with your motivations, it would make it easier for you to achieve your goals. So what if just by listening, you could take a powerful step towards living in a more authentic and aligned way with what it is that you actually want? Because your mind, it gives you what you focus on 100% of the time. So what if there were some effective ways, some things that you could do, some behaviors that you could have that made your actions that you took, what if those gave you predictable results? So that's what we want to think about. So as you're listening to this episode, you want to think about how you can truly be motivated to get what you want. And when you're motivated and you're taking action and you're focusing on what you want, you're going to get what you want because your mind is way smarter than you think. And one of the easiest ways to make your mind and connect with your mind is to align with your motivation. And your motivation is essentially your values. So I'm sure you've heard people mention your core values, your values. What are your values? Align with your values. However, values are much more than that. When you align with your values, it makes everything easier for you. Imagine if you were so aligned with everything that you wanted, you would make decisions easily, wouldn't you? You wouldn't sit there and have to decide what it is that you want, because unconsciously, your mind would already be programmed to give you what you want. And what if you wanted to do something? Or what if you met a person and they were giving you some suggestions on what it is that you should do? And what if there was something telling you that you just didn't trust this person? Maybe that's because they weren't aligned with your values. They weren't saying something to align with your values. And if you know your values, you'd be able to make those decisions. You'd realize those things right away. It would often be your unconscious mind. The rapport that you have with your unconscious mind would tell you that this is not with your values. What this person is saying or what they're trying to get you to do is not motivating for you. So it's probably a better thing that you do not do it. That's really the wonderful thing about aligning with your values. I remember the first time that I really did an exercise in my values. I was in a training and I was working with someone during the exercise, and they were asking me what's important to me about my business. And that's really how you can get your values in anything. What's important to you about your business? What's important to you about family? What's important to you about health? What's important to you about fitness? What's important to you about relationships? What's important to you about money? What's important to you about abundance? You just need to ask what's important to you about that specific thing, and then you answer the questions and get your values. So I was sitting there, and I thought this would be much more of a conscious exercise. And I was sitting there, and as I was going through my values, I was listing out a bunch of different words. And after about 20 minutes, I probably had a list of about 40 words. I think over time, with me connecting to my unconscious mind, I was just getting all sorts of answers, and I was also really curious and excited. So that's how I got so many values out of there. And after I had all the values, they showed me, they said, look, here's all your values here. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to arrange these values, not all of them, However, what's the most important value here for your business? The number one, the most important value for your business. What's the second most important? What's the third? What's the fourth? What's the fifth? And what's the sixth? And as I went through those and I connected with each of those values, each of those words, they were just like a single word, each of them. I realized how much passion I had for what I did. I imagined the excitement. I was just so excited to know that these were the things that were unconsciously driving me to achieve success. So this is really what your values can do for you. They can really drive you to get whatever it is that you want, as long as you allow your mind to align with your values. So that's something to really consider. And ever since then, when the first time I did this, the thing that I noticed over time is that your values, they change as you meet different people, as you build new relationships, as you achieve certain goals, as you interact with new people or you build new partnerships, as you go through good things, as you go through bad things, as you live in different places, as you change things in your environment. All this affects how you unconsciously look at your values. So it's important, if you want to be aligned with your motivation, that you need to do a certain amount of assessing yourself. It's important that you regularly evaluate your values to ensure that they truly represent who you are and what you want to achieve. So it's something that I'm always considering. I'm always considering what are my values in different areas of my life. Make sure that when you do your values, you're doing them for different areas of your life. Because maybe inside a relationship, love, of course, is really effective if it's a romantic relationship. However, what if you had love inside of a business? What would that do for your business? That means maybe you'd be looking for love inside of your business. So you need to make sure that when you're doing a self-assessment that you're doing this for a particular area of life, because you don't want to have misplaced values in different areas of your life when they don't need to be that important. Yes, you can love what you do within your business. However, if love is so high up on the list and it's more important than things like results or success or abundance, money, whatever is important in your business, excellence, whatever it is, then you're not going to actually get the results that you want. So you need to have a self-assessment every so often and figure out how your values, how they evolve over time. And you need to reflect on this and reflect on what you consider to be the most important thing for you. Because like I said at the beginning of this episode, this is a way that you can really align with your motivation. And values are what motivates us. So if you know your values, you're going to know what motivates you. You're going to know each and every day that these things, these important things to you, these words, these values, they're going to take up space in your mind. And you're going to think about them as you do different things. And maybe one day you feel like stopping. And next thing you know, your values pop in your mind and they motivate you again. So once they start to lose motivation, or you notice that you're not motivated in the same way as you were before, you can either do a self-assessment like this and just assess, well, maybe something isn't as important as it was before, and you can find out what's important to you about that specific area of life. Or what you need to do is you need to consider, are you motivated towards something? Are you motivated away from something? And this is also how you align with your motivation, because there may be a conflict there. For example, let's say someone wants to go to the gym and they want to look a certain way. They want to feel a certain way. So they start to work on this goal, and they know what values this goal has and how they're motivated. So as they start to see changes, they're moving towards this picture in their mind of this person that they want to look like. And as they want to see themselves as this person, they start to notice things changing. However, as they start to notice things changing, they start to lose motivation because there's something else holding them back. It's like they're moving away from something else. So the whole time they're going towards that one thing, it's like they're looking over their shoulder and they're also looking towards another image, that person that they were at the start. So this person has a conflict. They're going towards only to a certain extent, and they're also moving away from something that they don't want. So at some point, that thing that they don't want is going to take up more in their mind, and they're going to be moved towards that thing. So when you're going after your values and you have motivation, you want to make sure that you have a fair amount of towards motivation, so you're moving towards what you want. So in the example, you're always moving towards how you want to look, the results that you want to have. And that will show you that you're continually motivated towards that image. No part of your mind will be focused on the other amount. So you can ask yourself, when you have a certain value, let's say at business that we mentioned earlier, you have a value of results. So 0 to 100, how much are you actually focused on results? And trust in your unconscious mind to find the answer. And your unconscious mind will tell you a certain number. And you need to make that number be very high. Because if it's not, then you're going to have a conflict. You're going to be going away from results. So as soon as you get a little bit of results, your unconscious mind may sabotage you to get something else in order for you to get results again. So instead, if that percentage is much more, sometimes it's good to have a little away from. Let's say you have 10% away from and you're moving 90% of the time towards your goal. This means it's going to be a much more pleasurable experience for you. So as you do a self-assessment on your values, you also want to consider how much you're moving towards something and how much you're moving away from something, because that will tell you how much you actually want that thing that you are going after. How motivated are you actually going after your value? Or is there a conflict there? Or it may tell you if something is misplaced, like I mentioned earlier, that love. And you'll notice that your results aren't adding up to what your values truly are. So that's why it's important to do a self-assessment. Another way to make sure that you're always aligned with your motivation is you can set goals that align with your values. Because if your values are what motivates you, your values are actually much more than that. Your values are also things that tell you what's appropriate for you, what's inappropriate. Maybe it's the way that you look at right from wrong. However, your values are essentially your motivation. And another important thing that your values do for you is when you have a value and you really, really want it, and you hold that value in your mind and you think about that value, you're going to put time, money, energy, effort, your attitude, everything is going to be aligned with that value. So if you have a value and it's part of your business or it's part of something in your relationship, you're going to spend time thinking about that. You're going to spend energy with that value. And you're even going to put in money to make sure that you achieve that value. So if you want to achieve your goals, you need to make sure that your goals are aligned with your values. It will make it that much easier for you to put action into achieving your goal. If you have a goal and it's not motivating for you at all, what are you going to do? Chances are you're not going to take any action. However, if your goal, regardless of what area of life it's in, if your goal is motivated by your values, and it has your values there, and it's aligned with your values, and you've resolved every single thing, every limiting decision, and every negative emotion that's in the way, then you're going to be able to easily and effortlessly get your goal. So you can ask yourself when you're going after your goal, is this choice that I'm making, is it reflecting my values? And is it moving me closer to the vision that I have of bettering myself every single day? With every action that you take, you should be able to easily and effortlessly go after your goal because it's motivated by your values. And when you know your values, your goals are going to be that much more easy to achieve. And a good thing to do, like I said earlier, do a self-assessment. So as you achieve certain goals, notice if your values change. Because if you achieve one goal and then all of a sudden you're working on another goal and you don't feel as motivated, make sure to ask yourself then, what is important to me about this new goal? And that will help you become much more motivated than you are right now if you see that your motivation is not what it used to be. Another important reason to stay motivated and really align yourself with your motivation is it makes decisions that much more easy to make. So this is a way to filter your decisions, and I touched on decisions earlier. When you're aligned with your values, it makes you make decisions easily. It doesn't even feel like you're making a decision, because when you use your values to filter different decisions, you'll know if the decision's right for you unconsciously, because many of your values, they're unconscious resources that you have. They're things that motivate you on the inside. They're driving your behavior, your habits, things that you learn, and they're causing you to create change. So you can use your values as filters when making decisions. So when you have a choice, you can even ask yourself, does this choice reflect my values? Does this choice move me closer to that vision that I have to continuously better myself? And then over time, when you're so aligned with your values, you're going to notice that these decisions are automatic for you. These decisions are natural for you. You're going to move closer to that vision of your ideal self each and every day, because everything around you is going to be designed by your motivations. You're going to be so aligned with your environment, including the people around you, your business, your career, whatever one you have, your family. You're going to be aligned with all these things, and you're going to make decisions easily because you're motivated by your values and you're aligned with your motivation. So make sure that each decision that you make, it's going in line with your values. Because think about it. Have you ever made a decision and then all of a sudden, a bit later, you're thinking about it and you're like, why did I decide that? What was the point of deciding that? What was the purpose of deciding that? It doesn't feel good now that I decided that. I need to go back and maybe ask for a refund or speak to that person again. I don't actually want to do the thing that I decided on. And this can be something so little, it doesn't have to be a big decision. Then there's other decisions that you make, and all of a sudden you're doing something and you're like, wow, I made this decision. This is awesome. I feel so good about the decision. I'm so aligned with the decision. And then you have motivation to carry out the actions to make this decision one of the better decisions that you've made. So if you notice that you're not making decisions and you're not feeling good making decisions, then before you make them, you need to make sure that you're aligned with your values. So for example, a big thing for me is time and freedom. So if someone is asking me to do something, I don't want this person to tell me exactly sometimes when to do it because they're often thinking about their own time and their own freedom. So if someone wants something done and I know when they want it done by, I know for me to feel motivated and me to be aligned with my values that I'm going to do it when I feel like doing it on my own time. So I have the freedom to choose. Because what I've noticed sometimes is when I listen to another person and they're telling me exactly when to do something, if there's a deadline in the future, then I almost start to do this when they want to do it. And that aligns with their actions, their beliefs, their values. Instead, I want to do it what aligns with me. So I've noticed that for me, when I'm doing something, I need to do it at the right time for me so I can feel really good. So make sure when you're making decisions, they align with your values because you don't want to end up doing things and regretting them later. Because if you make decisions and you're motivated by the right things, when you make those decisions, you're going to feel that much better later. And another way to stay motivated and stay aligned with your values is you can always share your values with someone close to you, whether that's a mentor or that's a coach, and this person can help you stay accountable. So maybe like I talked about earlier, your environment, the environment around you is very, very important. Maybe there's some people in your environment around you that you want to share your values with, and you want to show them that you're so motivated, and maybe that will motivate them, and maybe that will also help them motivate you. So it's up to you whether or not you want to have an external check and have someone maybe hold you accountable a bit to maintain your values and maintain your motivation. So anytime you're faced with any sort of challenge, it's not really a challenge, it's just something that you can expand past so that you have opportunities to expand past things easily and effortlessly. And of course, this won't seem like it takes so much effort. So if you want someone to be accountable, and maybe you want a coach to do that, you can also reach out to me. I can also help you elicit your values so you can utilize the values so you can always be motivated and stay aligned with that motivation to achieve everything that you want, because you deserve to have anything and everything and anything, and it should be easy and effortless for you, and it also should be automatic and natural for you. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to align your mind with your values, because you're going to put time, money, energy into these values. And that's going to help you control the things that you can control, like your effort and your attitude, and you'll always be motivated. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found this episode interesting, go ahead and rate the podcast wherever you are listening. And if you think this could help another person, go ahead and share the podcast so we can get this in the mind of as many people. It'll really help make the world a much better place. Thanks again for listening, and hope to see you on the next episode.